Oh, the chaos of a Saturday in college football where, frankly, a lot of people thought they knew how games were going to play out, and it felt like about every 10 minutes it changed. Some things you know, Pat McAfee's always going to represent a good belt buckle. Nick Saban's never going to be happy, and somehow Alabama's going to get it done over and over. It was a wild day to try and keep up with it, and we're going to try for the next hour to get you caught up on everything that happened, but also get you ready for huge action tonight. AJ McCarron, I'm Jason Fitz. It's a college football show presented by AT&T 5G. We're back, brother. Like, you know what? So somebody somewhere got fooled into thinking we know what we're doing because we get to hang out yet again, right?
Let's do it. This is an interesting day today.
Yeah, it was an interesting day, and it was I'm always curious. We're going to lean on your expertise a lot over the course of the next hour. But like when you're watching, I mean, you got a lot of rings, right? Like you got a little trophy mantle going up there. Like when you're watching this action go down on Saturday, how up and down are you? Like, because for me as the fan and then the guy that roots for total chaos, I'm doing cartwheels, like I'm screaming F-bombs at the TVs, trying to get fired by ESPN. How up and down are you watching all this?
I'm pretty even. I never get too high, I never get too low. I like watching a good game, a back and forth game. Not a big fan of the blowouts, but and we definitely had some back and forth games today.
Well, there's a reason I asked. I mean, I'm sitting this far from him, and we got to start with the game that was a little bit heated. Alabama taking on Texas in the game of the week, the game of the year, the game of the millennium. Number one, under 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. We're tied at 3-3. Gone. Look at that. I mean, just draw play goes 81 yards from McClellan. Bama goes up 10-3 in the scorching heat. According to multiple reports, it was 120 degrees on the field. And Texas says, no worries. Quinn Ewers finds Xavier Worthy for a 46-yard completion. That is a hell of a pass.
They came out firing, taking some shots. They had a ton of momentum on their offense.
Also, a little handsy on the defensive backfield. We'll get into that as we continue to break down the game. Now, 3 plays later, Bijan Robinson punches it in, goes around the corner still. Texas ties it 10-10, and we go all the way to the game, to halftime, scored 10-10. Remember, Quinn Ewers injured in this game. That becomes significant. Beautiful play here by Bryce Young, ducking in.
It was a great job at extending the play and finding Jahmyr Gibbs in the back of the end zone right there.
Nice little 7-yard touchdown pass, makes it 17-16 Alabama. After missing his chip shot field goal before the end of the first half, Auburn was not afraid. Bert Auburn steps up. Woo!
Great kick, but too much time on the clock, baby.
You leave a minute 30, you know where this thing goes. So the next drive, Bryce Young. I mean, that's pretty, right? Just a beautiful
halfback
pass.
Angle right there. Big gain for Bama.
Gibbs 20-yard gain there, and then. Look, you thought you had him. Also, blatant hold on the edge. What do I know? And then all of a sudden, Bryce goes around the edge.
Well, I mean, the disguise of this cover zero, I wish we had a wide view, but they brought a boundary corner cat. I believe the field side nickel played flat top cover zero on the back end, and just a Heisman play by last year's Heisman winner.
And that sets up Reichard going for the 33-yard kick that wins the ball game. This was an absolute nail-biter from start to finish. This was a heavyweight fight between two teams, and we've become so convinced that Alabama should roll every single time they step on the field. They had to take the counterpunch repeatedly in this game. I thought what we were watching were two football teams just fight. And honestly, AJ, as you see the numbers there, Bryce Young 27-39, 213 and a touchdown. That huge run we talked about. Bryce Young was asked to do a lot in a low-scoring game where both defenses were coming after it. I was really impressed by the effort of both teams.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I was most impressed with was Texas defense. The way their D-line played today, I mean, hats off to them. I think Texas is one of the top 25 teams in the country. I mean, their D-line took it to Alabama's O-line. Alabama, the reason they struggled for 4.5 quarters was they couldn't establish a run game. Other than the one long touchdown run for 81 yards, they couldn't get anything going. And it makes that offense a little stalemate when you don't have any run game whatsoever and you're depending straight on the pass from facing a defense that is disguising well in the back end and getting pressure up front, it makes for a tough day. And but listen, Bama, when they needed to make plays, they made plays in that last drive. The biggest play of that whole drive was the initial first down of that drive starter. They got 8 yards on a pass play, and I've been in that situation. LSU in 2012, we were the same way. Offense was stalemate all game, and we needed a drive at the end, and the biggest thing was us getting a positive play on the first play of that drive, and that's what started a fantastic drive for us then.
You mentioned that Bama they made the plays when they had to. I think Texas is going to look back at this game and say, my God, there were opportunities. There were open receivers. There's a drop in the end zone. There's a missed field goal at the end of the first half. Little things. Like when you want to beat Bama, you got to do the little things perfectly. And Texas came so close to doing that, but really unforced errors in several different occasions that really put them in the situation against a Bama team that wasn't their cleanest. There was a lot, as I mentioned, the handsy backfield. I mean, we're talking about the most penalties ever for a Nick Saban coach team at Alabama, ever. And they hit that mark early in the third, which tells you that this thing was just going off the rails. The amount of just holding that they were, guys were out of position, and it's like, well, I'm going to hold him rather than get beat by him. So there was also a huge call here that was controversial at the time. They called this targeting and roughing the passer. And then they went back and looked at it again and decided that it was instead an incomplete pass. Bryce Young throws it, bounces off the helmet of the defender. But important, if you look here, AJ, his arm actually didn't hit the ground. So his arm isn't down, it isn't down, it isn't down. The elbow is not down, the forearm is not down. He's still active when he throws the ball off that helmet.
That was one of the most confusing calls I've seen in a very long time. Because if you look, the far side ref came in showing safety. So you had a targeting call, a roughing the passer call, and at first a safety call. And then it comes back that, hey, none of those three things happened. Incomplete pass. Like, wait, what? I was kind of mind blown right there, but it ended up being the play of the game for Alabama in a sense of you won by 1 point. So it was a weird ordeal in that situation.
I've spent too many years covering college football with the Texas is back conversation, and I don't want to have that. But I think Texas really showed a lot today. Yeah. Like just going out and playing the way they played, the number of times that Texas could have given up when they weren't getting offense. Again, Quinn Ewers goes out on a sack in the first half that left him with, they're saying right now the diagnosis is a sprained clavicle. Yeah. We don't know the severity of that yet, but it's a multi-week injury. They still fought with their backup quarterback. I felt like Texas did everything right, but when you want to beat Bama, you literally have to do everything right. And those little things were just enough to let Bama escape. And that's when you're the number one team in the country and you go into Texas and you win, there's still got to be some emphasis to that.
Yeah, I think Sark will look back on, their last drive as an offense and kind of say, hey, did I do enough to take enough, time off the clock? Like, I felt like when they were in that third down situation, you're already in field goal range. Like, would it be more beneficial to just run it right there and make Bama burn a timeout or just run more clock down? Like, instead, they tried to pass, took a bad sack. It ended up 4th and 10. And then they had to try for a long field goal, end up making it. But they left a lot of time on the clock for Bama's offense. And when you got that many playmakers, Bryce Young especially, that's a recipe for disaster.
We'll get back to that game, but you know who else never really thinks about clock management in general? Tennessee. All right, the Vols take it on Pittsburgh. Number 24, Tennessee at number 17, Pittsburgh. But let's remember, according to Vegas, Tennessee the favorite in this one. And it took no time for look at that swiggity swooty. You know what he's going for. It's the booty. And he got it right there with the beautiful move. Keaton Slovis getting Bartholomew 57-yard touchdown pass. Can you do that?
No, I stay my butt on the ground, but that's a big tight end making a hell of a play right there.
Hendon Hooker continues to make a ton of throws for this Vols offense over the course of the season. throws it up in the air. I mean, that one was like the Goodyear blimp hanging out for a while, but it ends up in a touchdown. Tennessee cuts the lead to 17-14.
McCoy did a really good job. He got pushed out by the DB and coming back in, establishing himself inside play, and then going to finish the catch.
They weren't done, by the way. Hooker finds Cedric Tillman for a 61-yard completion to the pit one. Originally, they thought it might be a touchdown. Then they realized, despite all the go-go gadget arms, he came just a bit short. So that leaves us at 1st and goal for Tennessee, where Jabari Small comes up big.
Punch it in.
I'm waiting all day for that one. Tennessee goes up 21-17. In this one, right now we have 27-20 with about 5 minutes left. Now, if you know anything about Heupel and the pace of play that Tennessee likes to play with, they got 5 minutes left. That means they can run roughly 327 more plays. So they like to keep things moving quickly there, obviously. But this matchup has been, I think, everything we expected to be. In the first half, AJ, it was offense versus offense, everything going wild. In the second half, it has calmed down a little bit, and you can see that Pitt's focusing on running the ball a little bit more. That's one of the dangers, because Pitt went up early in this game, and what I really wondered is when you have a Vols offense that is going to be 3 and out, you know, for pace of play purposes, are you going to wear your defense out being on the field so much? So it feels like it went from being high-flying to now being sort of more of a grinded-out game.
Yeah, for sure. Tennessee's got to do a good job in these last 5 minutes or so of controlling the football when they get it back, if they get it back and are still leading. But I think Pittsburgh's mindset changed when Slovis went out with his injury, and they started establishing the run a lot more. I mean, but Slovis was getting tattooed early in the game. I mean, he took multiple big hits, got slammed on the side of his head. He's going to be really sore tomorrow.
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. We'll keep you updated on that game as it continues to play out. That's not the only action in the SEC. Also, the South Carolina at number 16, Arkansas. We're going to pick this one up at the start of the fourth quarter. Arkansas up by 5. I did that intentionally. Twitter, don't at me. KJ Jefferson rushes for 2 yards into the touchdown. Big body touchdown there, makes it 28-16. Then he says, you know what? I also like to throw for tutties. 23-yard touchdown pass to Warren Thompson.
How does he get that open?
You tell me.
What happened?
Oh, beautiful play by them. And now Arkansas has the ball on the 1 yard line. A.J. Green rushes into the end zone for a touchdown. That secures the win. This game, the final score seems sort of close, 44-30. It didn't feel it necessarily watching it. This was one of those games where Arkansas felt like they were always in control and South Carolina was always trying to make it difficult. I'm a little, I don't want to say disappointed, because 24-39, 376 to touchdown and a pick isn't bad for Spencer Rattler. But
yeah.
I don't know that I've seen that dynamic, explosive moment. We're still waiting for Spencer Rattler to develop into who everybody thought he was going to be when he got to the college ranks.
Yeah, and for me, you know, personal opinion, it's hard. I think it's going to be hard to kind of tell what type of player he truly can be, because I don't know how much talent they have at South Carolina.
But don't you, like, at some point, I'm going to put a little onus back on the young men making these decisions, because one thing I love at this point is that there's player empowerment to go out and pick your destiny. He chose South Carolina. So, like, if you choose South Carolina, you don't get to look around then and be like, well, I don't have that much around. I mean, transfer portal. He could have picked someplace maybe more stacked.
100%. Maybe he got the bag at South Carolina. And that's why he chose there. But
I take it all back. If you get the bag, you go where you get the bag. I mean, that's always earn the money. Earning the money today and worth the money for the watch. App State, Texas A&M. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Early on in the day, this wasn't a game we thought we'd be featuring, right?
Overrated.
I mean, AJ's coming right out with it. App State taking on Texas A&M. Haynes King throws it to Evan Stewart right here. Whoop! And he makes the move, but he forgot to take the ball. You got to take the ball with you.
Yeah. Ball security, bud. Let's go.
You're going to see it here again, and it is a video game move. It's pretty, but not if you don't keep the ball in with you, and it ends up in a turnover. Now we pick it up 3rd and 6. App State. Chase, don't call me. Lee Bryce finds his tight end, Henry Pearson, for the score. Caps off an 11-play touchdown drive for App State. But as difficult as that drive was, A&M said, you know what? I'm just going to, I'm just going to answer with one play. All he does is go for big yardage. 96 yards for A-Chain. as he goes in for the touchdown there. Ties the game up, knotted up at 14. Now we pick it up after an App State field goal, 17-14, 3:50 to go here. Caden Davis, 47-yard field goal attempt. Special teams, yet again this week, were a theme. We thought the special teams would be the theme. They were the theme, and now we have a final. App State has beaten Texas A&M 17-14, the number 6 team in all the land. The team that we have been blowing up October 10th. Like, I believe it's October 10th off the top of my head. A&M versus Alabama has been a talking point since June, when all of a sudden you had Jimbo yelling at Saban, and now A&M doesn't even get there with a clean record. I mean, the disappointment for SEC fans has got to be through the roof right now.
Not a good day. If you're a betting man or woman, put the house on Alabama when they play Texas A&M in October. I'm calling it now, because I think Jimbo's gotten himself in a bad situation. Crazy, wild off season, a lot of talking just because they beat Alabama last year. He's having some serious struggles with Haynes King at quarterback right now. Serious struggles with his offense, not putting up hardly any numbers. That's 2 weeks in a row. I mean, they struggled for 3.5, 4 quarters against Sam Houston last week. So I think they need to find their identity and establish some type of offense and get this thing going, because it's going to be rough for A&M.
Haynes King, 13 of 20 for 97 yards. 8 carries for 23 yards. This, to me, the most surprising stat of the whole game, if I told you coming into today, isn't just that they lost. It's the App State time of possession. App State, 37-47. A&M, 17-38. That's not just getting beat. That's getting your ass kicked.
Oh, that's bad.
Like, there's just no two ways. And you're right. Like, maybe Jimbo has put this team, maybe this team is not where they need to be. But now we have to refocus the attention, because Jimbo Fisher isn't getting paid to recruit. He's getting paid to win football games. So if you're stacking that locker room full of people that are absolutely the highest recruited athletes in the country, and you're putting up these mammoth, legendary recruiting classes, it's only fair to then turn around and say, hey, you're not called the head football recruiter. You're called the head football coach. Coach these talents that you have in a way that you can win. Like, because I'm not looking at this and finding any reason. There's no explanation for why this happened to A&M with the talent that they have in that room.
Well, you especially get yourself under fire when you're considered a offensive guru and you can't put up any points. And you can't put up the yards that you should be putting up against two teams that at the beginning of the year, when this schedule came out, I mean, I'm sure everybody said, oh, they'll blow Sam Houston out. They'll blow App State out. And you struggled against Sam Houston for most of the game, and then to lose at home versus App State. And I'm not taking credit away from App State. I mean, they really should be 2-0. They should have won last week's game against North Carolina, and they blew that game themselves. But it is a bad, I think as bad of a start as you could possibly have for A&M and Jimbo Fisher and their offense.
Yeah, the wheels are going to fall off if that doesn't get fixed soon. Speaking of bad quarterback play, just when you thought it can't get any worse than what we saw at A&M, it can. It's known as Notre Dame. That, for once, is not a misspeak. It's not a misprint. You are looking at the actual final score. As the number 8 team in all the land, Notre Dame, loses 26-21 to Marshall in a game where, again, much like A&M, Notre Dame got outplayed. Notre Dame's quarterbacks had no idea what to do with the ball. I am stunned. A week after watching Notre Dame compete with Ohio State, we are now having to at least acknowledge that Marcus Freeman, the coolest man in the room, maybe the coolest coach in America, has now the distinction, if you go back to last year's bowl game, of becoming the first ever Notre Dame coach to start 0-3.
Listen, Coach Freeman can be as cool as he wants, but cool don't win ball games. So he's got a serious problem also, just like Jimbo at A&M. He's got a serious problem at quarterback. Tyler Buckner struggled, and everybody talked about coming into the, Ohio State game, how much of an athlete this kid was, being able to extend plays. But at some point, to play the quarterback position, you have to be able to throw the ball. And you have to be able to throw the ball down the field accurately and help your offense move. He's struggling right now. I think it looked like towards the end of that game, he went out with a collarbone injury, and it looked pretty bad. He was not moving his left arm at all. But and then you had Drew Pine come in and throw a pick. But for Marshall to have 3 picks today as a defense, a pick 6 that really sealed the game for him, that was a very late thrown ball out to Tyler Buckner's left side of the field. One, you already know, me and you have talked. I think Notre Dame's the most overrated team in the country every year. I think they're the most overrated program in college football every year. It never fails. But it's going to be a long season.
I want to give you a couple of numbers on that point. You mentioned Buckner, 18 to 32, 201, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Quarterbacks combined, 21 to 38, 221, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. One of those touchdowns came late. By the way, 26-21 was because of a late touchdown. The other side of it is that Buckner was the leading rusher with 44 yards. I mean, I know, and if you watch Game Day this morning, I think it was Herbie that said, Marshall's going to be better than people think. Keep an eye on him. I think it was Herbie that said that. Sorry if I'm discrediting. But I know that Marshall deserves a lot of credit here. I also think it's fair to turn around and say, what are you doing? I mean, offensively, what are you doing? What is the plan? What's the identity? What you need 3 yards. How do you get it? Because what it felt like watching this game is that when Notre Dame was in a situation where it was 3rd and whatever, and they needed something, like you have an identity to the point we've talked about for almost every team today. You know who's going to get the ball if Alabama's got a 3rd and 5. You know who's going to get the ball in Texas. You know from the teams that are supposed to be top 10 teams what their identity is. I watched Notre Dame drop back, and I watched whoever was at quarterback be afraid to throw the football, not know where they're trying to go with it, run around for a second until they get popped. Like, that's not a game plan.
No, not at all. And with Tyler Buckner, me and you talked about it last week where we were sitting here watching the Ohio State game. He's taking way too many hits. Like, I understand you need him established in the run game to kind of help you because you're struggling running the ball with your running backs. But the dude ain't that big to be able to just take hits, as many hits as he's been taking the past 2 weeks. And I think it showed late in the game. He takes a big hit, and hopefully he's okay. But it looked like I said, like his collarbone could have been broken because he was holding it a certain way, wasn't moving it. It could really cause some problems for him because, like you said, they have no identity, like none.
Well, we're going to keep breaking down all the action from today. But there's also action tonight that we need to get caught up for. It's a college football show presented by AT&T 5G. AJ McCarron, 5G AJ. I'm Jason Fitz.
It's all confusing.
You're looking at USC getting hyped for a rivalry matchup that you can check out tonight on ABC. USC taking on Stanford. This is an interesting one to me, AJ, and obviously that game kicks off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching in the ESPN app, you can authenticate. You can stick right here, watch all the football you need. You can also flip it on the TV, mute that, and keep us on while we keep you caught up for the rest of the day. But there's this interesting moment for me, and I saw this from Doug Kazarian this morning on SportsCenter. Like, the casual bettors keep saying USC, USC, USC. And then the pros are coming in and saying, no, Stanford's going to keep this thing closer. I don't think we really know who USC is yet. And I'm interested from your standpoint because as a quarterback, like Lincoln Riley comes in with, a new offense to set up, a new quarterback in Caleb Williams, someone he knows very well.
Yep.
But Caleb Williams sort of has to be a coach on the field. Like, everybody's got to get on the same page. I don't think anything's a given for USC because it feels so fresh to me. So from a quarterback standpoint, like, how do you get that rhythm?
Yeah, the biggest thing, like you said, Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, they both, it starts with them. They have to be in sync. It has to transfer over from Oklahoma. But from a quarterback standpoint, hopefully Caleb spent a ton of time in the offseason, which I'm sure he did, with his receivers, tight ends, running backs, getting the rhythm and timing down for their passing game because they are going to need it. They threw the ball a ton last week, and that's Lincoln Riley. He is going to sling it around. So if they can do that, I think they pull away from Stanford. But if they're struggling throwing the ball, Stanford's known to just be in a game and pull one out that everybody thinks they're going to lose.
Like Vandy in the no, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to make him laugh. No, I think there's some element of this too. Even the fact of this game, for all the conversation that we have about coaches, and we were talking earlier about Jimbo, coaches in college football have become rock stars, right? Yep. So they are synonymous with the programs. The fact that Lincoln Riley is at USC makes this the ABC game. Think about that. Like, we're used to Pac-12 after dark. Like, we're talking about 100 different things. Attention's being paid to USC because they have a coach that everybody's interested in that's going to play an offensive style that the people like to watch, that's going to create dynamic football for a team that now has expectations. All of that comes, that's what they're paying the umpteen $1 million per year.
Oh, yeah. It was, what, a $100 million contract? Wasn't it? Somewhere around there? Yeah. Like, yes, I mean, they went out and got the biggest name coach that they felt was going to be on the market. And he's going to have to make a splash in his first year there. Not so much from a win standpoint of like, hey, we need to get in the college playoffs, but from a recruiting standpoint. Because if he can just come in and not really have a whole lot of time to recruit the guys that he wants there and make sure he gets them there, if he can have a successful year, it sets up huge for him and for USC as a program moving forward, especially when they get into the Big Ten, when they make that jump. So they definitely need to have a successful year this year.
I'm also a big believer, styles make fights, but styles also make identities, right? And like one thing I don't think we acknowledge enough is identities of different cities. Like USC being in LA matters to what product they need to put on the field. Like I've always been a believer that on the NFL level, like now that the Raiders are in Vegas, right, you got to have big names to go on billboards because it's a city full of stars. It's something I've said about Nashville and the Titans for years, living there for many years of my life. Like there are certain cities that are so filled with star power, they need star power. When USC was at its best, they had a star power coach and they just ran star power wide receiver after receiver after receiver that were sort of billboards. Lincoln doesn't just have a responsibility to win games. I think he's got a responsibility to go out and make USC appealing. Like for anyone that saw on Twitter today, some of the pictures of UCLA and the Rose Bowl, I mean, it was just outright embarrassing. Brutal. Nobody is going to those games. And at some point, you've got to turn around and say, hey, if we want to build something on the West Coast, it's not just winning football games. It's becoming part of the national conversation. It's winning football games with style. It's having big-name people that want to come to California to play where the name, image, likeness opportunities could be through the roof. Like, these are all boxes that Lincoln Riley has to check off. And that's why, for me, it's not even just about the pressure of representing the Pac-12, which I think is there, or the pressure of representing just the school. When they kick off tonight, they've got to represent what they're trying to build for the entire country because they're getting a higher level of platform.
100%. I would take it one step further. I think the reason they have to be successful is because I think the jump to the Big Ten, when they make that jump, I think overall hurts them. Because if he's not successful before they make that jump, now you're recruiting against Ohio State. Like, I understand you're out in LA, great weather, but kids are going to go where they think they can win. So Michigan State, Wisconsin, like, I think that overall jump, I really do. If they're not, successful at the beginning of his tenure, I think the jump to the Big Ten hurts them in the long run when they could stay in the Pac-12 and just face Oregon and Stanford, and that's it. And you could still be the dominant player for recruiting out there. it's going to be very interesting for sure.
Not to mention the early kickoffs to that market, too, that are going to be inevitable. You want to watch USC, you better be up at 8 a.m. Like, that's going to be wild. All right, we're going to get you caught up on more action of what to expect tonight throughout the course of the show. But we got to get back to some of the good that we saw today. And that starts with Arkansas State taking on Ohio State. C.J. Stroud and the third-ranked Buckeyes. We all know how good they were last week. We all know the offensive expectations. This play killed me. Absolutely killed me. This was the last play of the first quarter. If Harrison scores there, they ruled this an incompletion. If he scores there, then Ohio State covers the -12 that they were favored in the first quarter, and my bank account looks substantially different. They did not. As a result, they score a field goal on the first play of the second quarter. I hate gambling. All right, but I love it in every possible way. Let's pick this up to actual action. Again, Harrison Jr., you say good ball. What do you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, great job of leading him and making sure he stayed in, though.
Oh, look at this.
That's another really good ball.
When these guys are on, there's nothing you can do to defend it. There's a chemistry and knowing where to go with the ball that is
give your bigger receiver an opportunity. Throw it. The DB's got his back to you. Throw it at the back of his head, right above his head, and your receiver's looking back. It's easy to make a play for him.
I want you to see the numbers. C.J. Stroud, 16-24, 351, 4 tutties. Marvin Harrison Jr., yes, the son of Marvin Harrison, 7 receptions, 184, 3 touchdowns. This is important because Jackson Smith-Njigba was not in this game. So you start talking about it like the number one guy that we're all like, everybody's earmarked as one of the top draft prospects when he chooses to come out. Everybody's looking at it saying, oh, without him, yes, it's still Arkansas State. But what Ohio State has reminded you is that they can put basically anybody out there, not because of their system. I'm not saying system wide receiver. I'm saying that they've obviously figured out how to recruit that position better than anybody because they are just putting dogs out and letting them hunt.
No, I mean, they do. And it's Ohio State. Off the name alone, you're going to get big-time recruits. And you're throwing the ball under Ryan Day as much as you are with C.J. Stroud. Like, you're going to get top receivers around the country. I got something for you, though. We talk about how good Ohio State is. Are they really that good, being the fact that they played Notre Dame the way they played Notre Dame last week?
I knew you were going to throw, but you're not wrong. Like, for anyone that didn't see it, Notre Dame's offense was abysmal. And last week, the big conversation was that Ohio State fixed their defense because of the way they played against Notre Dame.
All right.
What if Notre Dame just sucks that much?
That's what I'm saying. I think that's a serious question. Like, are we, overhyping Ohio State? I understand C.J. Stroud, baller. They have receivers, ballers. But are we overhyping their team as a whole, all because they beat Notre Dame and they beat Arkansas State today, 45-12? I mean, Notre Dame, number 8 team in the country, just lost to Marshall.
You're not wrong, man. Like, it's a fair point. Like, maybe we should at least reserve judgment on Ohio State. But who are you in on then, other than Alabama, who, by the way, barely beat Texas? I'm
Georgia.
Okay, yeah, no, we're all
still good.
I think we're all. All right, let's move to another team that's probably pretty good, but they played a cupcake today, and that would be Clemson taking on Furman. Clemson, number 5 in the country. Clemson's number 5 in the country, and this one comes down to DJ Uiagalelei. We're going to get you some highlights, but I just wanted to prove that I can still say that last name, and most importantly, I wanted to prove to you that Clemson's still in the conversation. I don't know. We've got it here. DJ going up to the line of scrimmage. He's going to take that big body. Down 16 pounds this year, but still an imposing force. Look at him. So he keeps it, rolls out, throws it over to Jake, bringing stool for the walk-in touchdown. Clemson goes up 14-3 at that point. Second quarter, Clemson up 14-3 still. Will Shipley takes the handoff. Shifty Shipley takes it 17 yards.
What a run.
21-3 now. Third quarter, that's an interesting spread on that one. Just standing back there, flings it up.
That's trouble, though.
Oh, I'm telling you. Just
against a top team, that's trouble.
But why?
I mean, good defense, good DB is going to make a play on that. Like, the chances of you getting away with that throw, but listen, that's not an impressive win.
That's why we showed you the highlights. I mean, TJ 21-27, 231, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. I love what you just said, though, AJ. Like, some of the throws that are completed in these games, like the numbers don't tell every story. You can't just look at the analytics.
No. If you just read the stat line, you would think 90% of the quarterbacks played great. Like, you have to watch the game. I thought DJ struggled bad last week. And then the young kid comes in and has an impressive drive at the end of the game. But I thought his accuracy for the most part, first half last week, was all over the place. He didn't look comfortable. And you would think a guy that's going into his second year of starting that he would look comfortable. But, I mean, they won today. They played Furman. The best thing in Furman is I went to a 7-on-7 tournament when I was in high school, and my freshman year, and we ran the wing tee. And I think we won the 7-on-7 tournament running the wing tee. So I understand it was a win and they're 2-0, but I don't know how impressive that is.
We're gonna figure out a way to do a feature on here that's like AJ's meh, because that's where. But I am with you on this. I will say this quickly. I picked Clemson to win the ACC, and I thought they'd be back in the national championship conversation. You mentioned comfort in this offense. I would say control in this offense, too. Like, I have not seen anything through 2 games that makes me feel good about my own pick. I expected a different version of DJ, and all I keep thinking now is that with the recruits that are behind him at the quarterback position, I don't know how comfortable I feel with where he'll be by the end of the year. I'm rooting for the kid.
Of course. I wonder when it comes to media, and now that I have a part in it, but do we overhype these guys off of one appearance? Like, so he got overhyped, I feel like, and off of the game that Trevor Lawrence missed. This will be my only push, because yes, sometimes we do. My only pushback is last year, after that one game, I was hosting one of our college football shows on Sunday on TV, and E.J. Manuel and Tom Luganville were with me. And Tom Luganville studies recruiting. He's like, I'm telling you, I've been watching this kid since 8th grade. He can play. So there are some of us that have like, but I think the thing that we forget in that process, we being media, is that the variables that you deal with change the way you're going to perform. Like, and we have no idea how people will handle those variables. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, Tom can say, this kid's the most talented I've ever seen. Like, until he gets on the field in college and you see live bullets coming at him, like, you don't know how well that kid's going to be. It's just like the NFL draft. These guys going out, he should be the best thing since sliced bread. Well, it's a completely different game. He's going to be in a different system. Like, how does he learn a new system? How does he react to the speed of the game changing? Like, how does he react to different coverages coming at him and looks from the defense? So my thing is, and it's not on DJ himself by any means. I'm not bashing him. I wonder the type of pressure we put on these young guys by overhyping them so quickly off of one appearance or 2 games or 3 games, and we make it to where they can't live up to the hype. So the only place they can go is down, really. So
this is a meta conversation we're having, but I agree with you, and I will say that name, image, likeness is only going to make that even more difficult. Expectations of cash, but to that point, I'll quickly say that, like, that's true of any industry. Just imagine if you started a new job somewhere, you went to do something you've never done before. You might think you know how you're going to react, but you never know. I know how we're going to react now, because it is time to bring in a superstar guest, the one and only Trent Richardson.
Richardson bolts up the middle to the end zone. This could be a touchdown. Oh, shake it, bake it, and he makes it. And Richardson breaks free on the sideline. End zone. How about that?
All right. I mean, the biggest reason we got AJ on is because AJ's got a big-ass phone book. Trent Richardson hanging out with us now. Trent, we appreciate you hanging out. Like, we're gonna go back and forth, ask you some things in general, but I'm going to start with the most important question. Today, when you're watching an Alabama football game, like, what's happening in your text thread? Do you have, like, a group thread? Is there a group, both of you guys, is there, like, a group Bama thread full of legends that won national champions that are trash-talking everybody? What's happening?
Well, I don't know if it's a thread, man, but we definitely stay in touch with each other. But when you see the performance that we put up today, and it kind of, it kind of shows us that, we done came a long way. But at the same time, like, that team, like, we were some dogs, man. And I'm not saying that team is not a dog, but I think each year we learned, and AJ was there, longer than I was, but we came in together and we seen the process as hey, we got to have a identity on each team. Like 2019 was his own team when we played against Texas. And so that identity, we didn't live that way in 2010. And we lived a whole different way in 2011. And so we just had different identities, man.
You're T-Rich, miss you, bro, and hope the family's good. You're 100% right when you say that, because I tell people all the time, like, the 2010 team we had when we beat Michigan State in the Capital One Bowl was probably the most talented team I've ever been a part of. But we struggled to really, truly that year throw the football, and teams kind of keyed in on the run a ton. But I wanted to ask you, how do we, or what's your opinion on how does Bama get this running game established more than what they did today? I mean, you could say, you had some good runs in Utah State, but it's Utah State. So this was our first real competition, and I'm sitting here just mind blown that the O-line can't get any push. And how can we get more out of this run game?
Well, I mean, it starts from the head, man. They got to be able to trust they running backs. They got to be able to trust they offensive line. I mean, because if you can't win in the trenches, AJ, just like I know, like our offensive line, man, they stayed there probably to about 10, 11 o'clock at night studying, watching film. Our offensive line, we probably had the best offensive line coach in the nation, all the years that we was there, even when we switched offensive line coaches. So, I mean, man, they got to start up front, man. Like, they got to – and when you play big games like this, man, it got to be bully football. Like, if it's not bully football, playing against teams like that can – that got a good defense. We didn't know how good their defense was, but, Stark is there, and he got that Nick Saban pedigree, too, at the same time. So he know what guys, the competition is going to be. Man, they got to be able to feed those guys, and those guys got to be able to be dependable.
You mentioned Sark being there. I'm always interested when I talk to Alabama guys, because you all talk about culture and understanding of the work that you have to put in. The standard is the standard sort of stuff. If it's that easy, why can't everybody replicate the precision that's required to create a dynasty like Alabama?
Well, it's not easy, man. What people don't realize, when you're talking about a true dynasty, Nick Saban loses coaches, about 3 to 4 coaches, just as he lose, in the first round of kids, of players. So it's different, man. Nick has been the only guy, and the coaches around him, that's coached underneath him, has been the only team, but him being the only guy that's been around since Bobby Bowden, the Joe Paternios, the guys that, the Belichick's been the only ones that can really, switch, and being able to, switch different levels each year, and be able to give off 3 to 4 coaches and send them guys, to go get a head job, to go get an offense coordinator job, a defense coordinator job, to go get their own team and put guys in the first round, put guys in the second round, and still you have, guys coming back. I mean, it's a lot of times, man, when you deal with a team like Alabama, like when me and AJ was in school, a lot of our second string guys are better than our first string guys, especially when we got to school. And it was like that every year. So you had to fight. You had a dog fight every year. I mean, so, man, if you're not building that type of program, it's not a true dynasty.
Yeah, 100%. When I look at their remaining schedule, is there a team in your eyes that you see that can now that we kind of saw some issues that they might be having up front from a protection standpoint, not establishing the run game, like in the SEC, especially the West, is there anybody you see later this year that could maybe give them some troubles?
Man, AJ, I don't really see nobody really giving them trouble. But they definitely got to be able to protect Bryce, man. You know, as good as that kid is, I mean, I still don't think he had over a 200-yard game in passing just yet. I know it was going to be in 2 games, but you know, the receivers got to catch the ball. They got to protect for him, and I think he got to stop taking licks, and I think he's getting better at that. But like, far as protection, man, like AJ, you know, like we wasn't giving up no sacks. Like, you wasn't taking sacks.
Right.
I mean, it's been like that for you since high school. But I mean, that was our goal. Like, we had me and AJ communicated so good. Like, if he got in trouble, I was gonna always be right beside him. Like, we dropped so many plays and ran him in the dirt, like just beside each other. Like, he'll let me know, like he'll look at me now, and I could just see the corner of his eye, and I was gonna be wide open, or I was gonna be right beside him. He's gonna toss me the ball for him to avoid that sack, or I was gonna make sure I had that protection. And that was one of the biggest things, you know, for our running back room. Like, that running back room got to be able to communicate with the offensive line. Like, if you're not going to do that, then, like, they're going to be running around all year as far as, the quarterback.
So one of my favorite things about working with former players at ESPN is I get to like share a little of their brilliance and learn something. So we're going to do something here, Trent. We're calling this Richardson's Run of the Day. I got a run right here. Penn State. Just want to see what you see. What do you see out of this kid?
Oh, he a downhill runner, man. I like him.
You like this? Like, what is it? Got that little in move?
He made his he made his block. He made his block, man. I like him.
Look at that. That's Nicholas Singleton with the big 70-yard touchdown run. I just always like to get plays from the perspective. Hey, give me. I'm not going to ask you to give me any dirt on AJ because we work together, but you at least got to give me some dirt on one of the teams. Look, who is the worst DJ in the entire, like, when you guys, like, there's got to be somebody that you knew you were never going to let control the music in the weight room. Was it AJ or was it somebody else? Feels like AJ.
Nah, it definitely wasn't AJ, man. AJ had more flavor than I had, man. I'll tell you that. Man, I don't know, man. We had some cool cats on our team, man, but we also had some crazy guys too, man. You know, dirt on AJ is kind of hard to find. I know AJ, when we was in school, man, he threw the best parties. I know that.
Oh, that's what I'm
Listen, I had a nice setup. I had a house in the back of a cul-de-sac. Hey, last thing before we let you go, T, how much money would we have made on this NIL deal? And when do we get some back pay for this?
Man, I still see number 3 jerseys with the 2009 or 2011, 12 national championship on it, bro. Like, I'm so mad about that. I'm happy for these kids, but, bro, like, you got to think about it. It was number 9, it was number 3s, number 10s. It was so much money we missed. I'm so mad for back pay. Look, as soon as they tell us we can get this back child support, I'm ready.
We'll start passing the hat with the new generation and tell them to start contributing to everybody from the past. Trent, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, brother. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anytime, man. Appreciate you, man. Love you, big bro.
Love you, bro. Tell the family I said hey.
They here.
Time now for Bruh, delivered by Pizza Hut. AJ, it's time now to look at some of the most questionable moments from college football over the course of the weekend and say, bruh.
We had some of those bruh moments for sure this week. Well,
we're going to start with a little bit of social media bruhing of UCF. They put out the score for everybody. It's just, tell me where they lost 20-14. That's a heck of a way to tweet it out. Bruh, I respect the social media game, though.
Yeah, let's just put out the picture and just say final on it and no score. Like, that's a better option, I think.
I'm all in for that. Let's get to a little action on the field, though, and that comes from Mizzou. Got a 5-star top wide receiver in the country. Expect great things. Quarterback, what do you say to your receiver there?
We got to catch it before we can run, but hey, everybody's not made to go across that middle like that.
Ah, man, that's an ultimate bruh moment. Now we've got Southern Miss head coach.
Yeah,
Well,
go.
I mean, he's sweating it up. Like, look, I'm a sweater. Like, this studio is cold because otherwise I'm schwitzing like pudding at a picnic. But still, bruh.
I mean, I understand the Miami Heat, but let's get some electrolytes or something in you before that.
Yeah, he's got to suck down some water after that. Alabama had 15 penalties called on him today,
Ugh.
the most in the Saban era. I don't think the word Saban's going to use with that team is bruh.
No, it's going to be a lot more choice words than just bruh, and that's a bad game for Bama.
Bad moment here for Iowa. Iowa State looks like they're going in. They cough up the football.
Oh.
Iowa's going to recover it. The only way they ever scores with their defense. But you got to stay in bounds. So unfortunately, they don't get it done, which means we get the bruhest of all college football rules. That's a touchback instead of a touchdown. Bruh, the agony is real. All right, let's check out what's going on in the college football Twitter sphere with our tweets of the day presented by AT&T 5G. We'll throw them up on the screen for everybody to have a little bit of fun with. And it starts with our very own Harry Lyles. Harry Lyles has plenty to say about Nick Saban as we get some of those reactions. He came out and said, man, that next Alabama practice is going to be brutal. LOL.
It ain't going to be good. I promise you that. Tomorrow's stretch and stride ain't going to be good.
Oh, my God. I cannot imagine just, like, do you avoid Coach altogether or do you just take the licking and keep on ticking?
Yeah, I mean, you got to see him at some point, and he's going to call a team meeting probably tonight.
Oh, man, that is going to make for a rough Saturday night. I love this one, too. This comes in.
Golly.
Quinn Ewers before and after playing Alabama. I mean, that is just
That's messed up.
Stucky, too, on that. I
My
mean,
man's hurt.
it started out well, and then it ends with Tiger King.
Tiger King. I hear you.
That is, nothing can top that except for Texas fans' third quarter, Texas fans' fourth quarter.
That's rough.
I mean, that's Matthew McConaughey.
Can you imagine losing that much weight to begin with just for that role?
No. Like,
I wouldn't even want that role because that was a bad role.
Wait. You depend on how, like, when they throw that bag at you, like when you making McConaughey money.
I know, but I don't.
I'll be
know if I
18 pounds and like do whatever.
I feel like they'd put like that bad juju on you right there.
Well, I mean,
that role.
You know, I'll do basically anything for that amount of money. Crying Jordan always wins, but especially when you put it this way. Live look at Notre Dame fans. I mean, they're not wrong.
Tell them to start preparing for basketball season. Football's over.
The shade is real.
They're 2 weeks in. Football's over.
Oh, my God. That is remarkable. And those are your tweets of the day presented by AT&T 5G. Obviously, we love the reaction. Keep them coming. You can also tweet us, and we'll make sure that we try and get these in the show. So always fun to hang out with us. In the meantime, it's the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. He's A.J. McCarron. I'm Jason Fitz. We've been getting you ready for the big action tonight. It looks like we've got some games underway. Florida is beating Kentucky right now 3-0. We are early in the second on that. We're watching it in studio. We'll keep you updated on it too. Interesting fun fact, Florida has never won 10 games in a season without beating Florida. Kentucky has never won 10 games in a season without beating Florida. So if Kentucky wants to be what people think Kentucky can be this year, they have one solution, and that is to beat a very good Florida team. And that's easier said than done. We're taking a live look in here now. Remember, Kentucky without their superstar running back, too. So that also plays a part in this. And now everybody is absolutely enamored with Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson, who's obviously going to win the Heisman based off his game last week.
Yeah, I heard a guy today, a reporter, say that he was a mixture of Cam Newton, Joe Flacco, Matty Ice, Josh Allen. I was like half of those quarterbacks are a pro-style guy, and half of them, like, I didn't understand that comparison, but again, I still feel it. Are we overhyping these guys off of just a couple of appearances? And that's the part that worries me. But
and let me say there too, AJ. Like, yes, we are, and I'm all in for guys getting hype. But I also think we got to understand there's balance to it. Like Richardson, when he came in last year, there was a minute where everybody thought he was going to be great. Then all of a sudden, the problem is when we overhype somebody, we then turn around and overreact when they're not good. And all of a sudden, like there's this world that exists, and in some ways it's a social media thing where like you're either a golden god or you're absolute trash, you suck, and you don't deserve to play the game. There's no middle ground. I'd love to see him I'd love to see him become what we're saying he is today. But, I mean, one game against Utah does not a legend make.
Yeah, for sure. No, I wish Anthony nothing but the best. Like, I want to see him evolve as a passer, take that next step. Like, I understand you're probably the biggest freak athlete in college football. You can do everything, but from a passing standpoint, all right, can we throw the ball on time? Can we throw guys open, not wait till they're open? And then can we place the ball where we need to at least 70 to 80% of the time? And that's the biggest thing. Can he take this next step as a passer and help Billy Napier and the Florida Gators be successful this year?
We'll keep you updated on that game. Also want to get you updated on USC Stanford. We got a live look in coming here. Again, we've been talking about this one a bunch, and Stanford is driving right now, already trailing 7-0 in the first, a 3rd and 9 from the 27-yard line, it looks like. Takes the snap. Oh. You didn't like the handoff at first?
I mean, 3rd and 9, like I feel like that's, it's a 3rd and long, but it's still manageable. Like, but that's Coach Shaw. I mean, he loves running the ball, but man, if you have confidence in your quarterback, let's throw it.
Quick to the line of scrimmage here for a 4th and 1.
That's the only reason they would do that. If I would think from a coaching standpoint, it would be if you plan on going for it and you're in 2-down territory right there, 3rd and 4th down, like you will run a draw or run the ball in that situation.
Well, and getting back up to the line of scrimmage, it looks like a player was down that stopped it. That will immediately start the conspiracy theories of a player going down to stop a quick snap. But now it'll be interesting to see because you lose a little of that advantage.
Look. Lincoln's telling them, get down.
Oh, man, they're showing the replay, yeah. And Lincoln, the players coming off the field, that's problematic. We're seeing the replay in studio, and I'll peek behind the curtain. We have TVs here that show everything, so I'm not sure that if they'll show that yet on the TV broadcast. That's why you should hang out with us every single Saturday. But it is absolutely without question that the player's coming off the field. He's trying to make it off the field in time. Yep. And he gets shut down.
One coach is doing this, run, and then Lincoln's going, get down. Like, Lincoln's a smart coach.
But college football heads this year told us that they were going to, officials, conferences are going to crack down on that because we're not supposed to use a player getting down as an advantage or disadvantage for pace of play. We'll see if that's easy to say until it's Lincoln Riley doing it.
That's the same NCAA that said they weren't selling our jerseys off their website during my days of playing, and you search your name on their website and, miraculously, like, your jersey pops up.
Hey, look, as a former NCAA, like EA NCAA football was my game. Call me EA, by the way. I'm desperately pleading to get into the new edition. And it was always amazing that, sure, I could go pick Vandy as a team. It looked remarkably similar to the actual people that were on the team. So it's amazing how they found their way around that. It should be noted the player that was coming off the field is now in the medical tent. This was never a question of whether or not they were hurt. It's just a question of could they have gotten off the field in time without a stoppage of play, and that we will never know the answer to that. I'm sure that's going to be what they're saying.
Yeah, I think we're playing some games right there.
Yeah, well, and we're seeing it across the board, actually. We can see an injury right now, or it looks like someone's down on the field in Florida, Kentucky. But I have to remind everybody, it was 120 degrees on the field for Alabama, Texas. I don't care how prepared you are, how many electrolytes you put into your body, or how many bananas you ate for the potassium. Like, you're going to have some cramping issues at that point.
Oh, 100%. I still remember playing my senior year at A&M, and it was like 118 on the field. Woo! And they have that big part of the track going around, but late in the game, my forearms started cramping, and I was over there guzzling, salt pouches and then mustard, pickles. But when I'd go to throw and when I'd snap my wrist down, my whole forearm would lock up. So
Mustard packets?
Yeah.
Pickles?
Listen, brother, you just do whatever you can.
Look, I'm not.
Okay.
Look, I love pickles. I love mustard, and I may try them together now. But I didn't know that helped with overall hydration. Like, it's got to be a.
Liz, I'm not a nutritionist, but that's what she said. So.
Who would have ever thought that would be the way That's What She Said made its way into our show for the first time? 4th and 1. Stanford goes for it, gets the first down conversion. Not a shock. It goes back to your point of why they called the draw. If it got them in range, they can run another play.
Yeah, if you felt comfortable. Now, where you get yourself in trouble is if you, on that 3rd down, you run a draw, you don't get any yards, and now you're in a 4th and medium or a 4th and long. So you can get yourself in some sticky situations then. But they're definitely, with the first down, moving the ball. They got him out of the backfield. Should be a touchdown right here.
Steps out at the 3.
Why?
He steps out at the 3.
Finish the stiff arm. Finish it, baby. He had him. It's a good read by the quarterback. They're going man coverage right there. The linebacker's already pushed over. You would think that linebacker would be what they call, or as a quarterback we call bow, backer's weak. You would think he would have a bow alignment towards the weak side of the formation to, if he's in man coverage, to kind of be head up over that tailback. But
Stanford with the handoff here, going to the left. Not a lot there. They went run heavy on the left side. USC saw it coming.
Yeah, that was a no-go from the beginning.
That was one of those plays that's either going to work or it's not, right? Like, it's our hats on your hats. Yeah. We're either going to force a hole or we're not. There's not a lot of trickery to that. So we get a 2nd and goal here. USC up 7-0.
Stood strong there at the point of attack up front. I think Stanford goes back to spreading them out. Create that space.
All right, spreading them out a little bit.
Rolls out to the right.
Put him on. Oh, he's got him in the back of the end zone.
Oh,
touchdown.
And it is there. And the call is
touchdown.
Calls a touchdown. It's a touchdown. All right. Stanford making it a game. Let's see if we get a replay of this.
That was a really good job by this receiver working the back line of the end zone. I wish they'd go back more.
Oh, he's getting ready for Sundays with that. Got both feet in.
See if this heel, make sure this heel doesn't hit. He keeps it up. Keeps it up. He keeps it up. It's a touchdown.
No question, I'll take a look at this one.
He keeps it up.
And there's a difference between one.
I did calf raises today. I feel like I could do that, right?
Yeah. Right after this, we're going to try it on this blue line right here.
We're going to try just throw me the ball and we'll just, I even held little weights while I did them. Like they were rubber covered weights, but they were weights nonetheless, right?
What do you do in your spare time?
I'm trying to get lean and mean. Like it's a new svelte version of me. All right. Well, this is what I know. What I know is if you're watching in the ESPN app, authenticate, stay right here. In the meantime, if you're just tuning in every single Saturday, we are right here from 7 to 8 p.m. Don't want to miss the wrap-up coming up at 11 o'clock. He's A.J. McCarron. I'm Jason Fitz. For Luna, for DJ, for Julius, for Quentin, for Jason, for everybody, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Come back next Saturday. We will be right here with you again. This has been the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G.
Roll Tide!